As for the Guardians, do you guys have a final take you want to hit on?
I mean, so I guess my silver lining in all of this is last year was kind of like an anomaly. I can't say anomaly. I struggle to say words like that. Sorry. And I think this year was more realistic up to where they are. And I think that now they can take a step back and really assess this thing and just hopefully try to put a better team together.
I actually don't agree with that. I think they're in between. I don't think they're as good as the team as last year. I don't think they're as bad as this year's
They're
team.
500.
Well,
it's not like they're on pace to lose 100 games. They're a 500 team.
No, well, they're under 2 games under now.
All right, that's still a 500 team.
I think they're going to crater. I do think they're going to crater.
Well, they might now.
I think the team is. It seems like there's a lot of anger in the locker room.
Yeah.
About what's happened here.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because when the front office decides to quit on the season.
Well, okay. How about hit a ball once in a while?
Agreed.
Like, if you want to be pissed off at yourself because you suck.
The team ultimately, it's their fault. They didn't play well enough.
Absolutely.
However, we all know the reason why, but they are in the hunt. Very much in it. And front office said, nope, we're not trying to. We're not. Winning is not a priority.
Every move they made was the correct move. Every move. In this last week. Moving on from Rosario, trading Savali at the peak of his value.
Yes.
And dumping Bell's contract. All three of those were the correct moves.
True. But that's irrelevant to the players.
Totally agree. But you can't worry about that.
Agreed. But now you
do have to worry about that. Now you do have to worry about that.
And there's a reason why Chris Antonetti went to go to talk to the players.
Yes.
He's trying to convince them we didn't quit on you, but they did.
A friend of mine asked me this question. I think you two are perfect for me to ask you all. He asked me yesterday. He said, a lot of you see with the Cavaliers, you see with the Browns, the media will go directly and talk to a player after a bad game or when the team is in turmoil.
Yeah.
And he said, why doesn't anybody go talk to Jose Ramirez? Now, people say he doesn't speak English well.
He does speak English.
Depending on who you talk to, but it got me thinking, like, I would be very, very interested to know what he feels. Like, I can't remember the last time a reporter said, Jose Ramirez said this about X, Y, and Z. I'm very curious to know what he feels about what's going on, especially since he left so much money on the table to make this team competitive.
Jason, do you know if Zach spoke to him yesterday? Does he speak to Ramirez regularly, or?
Most of Jose does speak a fair amount of English.
Of course he does.
But he goes through translators.
Right, because he's more comfortable.
There's
little nuances in the language that he's been here long enough. He understands. He knows the language.
It's 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes, like the fabric of the clubhouse, the nice thing about what we can do is we can just sidle up to a guy and just have a random conversation with him, a very informal, how do you feel, where are things at? It's harder to do that with guys who need translators because you're going through an intermediary, and are you really getting what they're actually saying?
Yeah.
Are you really? It's hard to get the genuine
and
feel of the moment.
And Jose's but what about Naylor? What's Naylor thinking right now?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him.
Or do you know if Zach has spoken to him?
I do not know. He's on the trip. Zach's in Houston. He's on the trip.
So I mean, I am curious. If I'm Jose right now, I'm pissed.
Sure.
But what I'm really going to be pissed is if they go another offseason and do nothing. Because let's face it, the Guardians have essentially done nothing to make the team better on the major league level for a number of years now.
Well, they tried, and they blew up in their face.
They tried. They tried with scraps.
They tried with mid-level. Josh Bell is a mid-level free agent, and Zanino was a scrap.
Mid-level?
Yeah, $16.5 million is mid-level. Right. That's not elite.
All right, fair.
But it's
mid-level.
not a scrap.
A mid-level and a scrap.
Yeah. That's where they live. That's where they're always going to operate.
Well, they shouldn't. It's unacceptable.
But again, are they ever going to go after Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani? No.
I'm not asking them to go after Aaron Judge.
So who do you want them to get?
Go after Cody Bellinger.
How much is he going to get in free agency this winter?
$25 million.
They should be able to do that.
$27 million, man.
They should be able to do that.
I mean, there's a level between Ohtani and Judge and Josh Bell. There's probably 2 levels between.
Probably 2 levels between.
So, get somebody in one of those levels for once. I mean, they haven't done that since Encarnacion.
But also, you have to convince that player to come here, which is not always easy.
Well, if you pay them, then they'll come. They go wherever the money is.
But they can
question.
get that money elsewhere in a city that they desire more.
We talk a lot about mid-market teams, and I'm just looking to be educated with this question.
Yeah.
I look at the Cincinnati Reds, and over my sports fandom, I've seen them sign guys to pretty damn decent contracts over the time. And I hear this term, well, we play in this market.
Well, they have. I mean, who have they
But,
really
but
signed? They
I
signed
mean, I
Votto.
can remember Votto. I can remember Ken Griffey back in the day. I'm just saying over the history of time, I've seen them
Yeah, but
spend
Ken Griffey
more.
was a long time ago.
But the point I'm making, over
Yeah.
my history of time,
Yeah.
I've seen the Cincinnati Reds spend more money to acquire talent and try to improve their roster than I have with the
I don't know
Guardians.
if
And I
that's
guess
true.
why?
The Guardians just signed Ramirez.
But the Votto contract is bigger than anything the Guardians ever handed out. That
right,
part's
but
true.
look, if I'm a Reds fan right now, I'm pissed off.
But they did it. So
No,
like
no, no,
when they
but
say
wait a second. The Reds, outside of Votto, haven't signed anybody in years. Who else have they signed?
But it's still a bigger contract. It was a homegrown
Oh,
guy,
I gotcha.
and they locked him up and they kept
Was
him.
it
and they'll
bigger
spend
than
his entire-
Ramirez's contract?
Oh yeah. Well, at the time, it was a big
But wait a
contract.
second. Besides Votto,
The Ramirez contract is what, 10
and it
years
was
later?
not a great contract because Votto hasn't been that great since then.
Correct. A lot of the contracts
But
don't
wait
work
a
out.
second here. Hold on. The Reds have not signed any other significant free agent in the last 10 years that I can think of. And the Reds, who were in first place in the NL Central, in a better division than the AL Central, just sat out the trade deadline. And with the Guardians, I can at least argue that I understand why they made those trades because they stink. The Reds have been playing really well, and they sat out the trade deadline.
Well,
They
I'm
did
not
nothing.
necessarily talking this year. I'm just talking.
No, but the
talking
Reds haven't
about.
done anything.
I'm just talking about over a period of time. I've seen
Yeah.
small market teams like the Reds, like the St. Louis Cardinals, like the Brewers.
No, wait
spend
a
more.
second.
I'm
But
just
you're
telling you
wrong.
what I see. Okay,
But
so
no.
I'm looking to be educated. Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference between a small market team like the Reds who can spend that money on a guy like Votto?
Yeah.
Why can they do
But
it and
the
the
Guardians
Guardians
did
can't?
with Jose Ramirez.
But he just said they never handed out anything.
Votto's,
like that.
Votto's contract was $225 million.
and Ramirez is what?
158 or something like that.
Whatever
It's
it was.
significantly
It was their
different.
best player. Who cares? You know,
That's a
$100 million
That's
is
a
a pretty significant difference.
yeah, the significant difference is Ramirez is better than Votto.
But to your
the
point,
point is the Reds have not signed anybody else besides Votto.
most small market teams cannot.
And the Cardinals
swing
are
those
not a small
contracts.
market team.
The Cardinals are not a small
They're not a
market.
small
Okay.
market team.
Most teams cannot swing the type of deals that you're talking about. Votto was the exception, for
Yes.
sure. Griffey was the exception, and even that was
That was a long time
And that
ago.
was a below market deal that he took
Yeah.
with Cincinnati.
Right.
A lot of teams, and a lot of times it comes down to your stadium deal. Baseball is completely different than NFL and NBA. NFL and NBA, they make so much money off their television deals that the location of the city doesn't matter. That's why the NBA can put teams in Memphis and Oklahoma City
Right.
and Vancouver back, whatever. The market size doesn't matter because the television contracts are so massive, everybody's making money. That's not the case in baseball where they
Yeah.
rely heavily on their
And
television
the Reds,
contracts.
I just think the Reds are a bad comparison because the Guardians have been a much better franchise than the Reds.
Oh,
And
they
I don't
have.
know that the Reds have had a higher payroll than the Guardians all that often in the last 10, 15 years.
I don't know. I don't
We'd have to
study